simplest technique and the easiest technique to know about the phase composition of your material. X-ray, the principle is known to everyone. 2D sine theta is equal to n lambda. The lambda is fixed and the angle is given by the machine, and you measure the interplanar spacing in the crystal or the unit cell of the material, right? So on one side it has a detector, on other side it has an X-ray source. The X-ray comes from the source, scattered from the material. The sample is here. You see, there this is a back field or front field sample holder, and they are collected by the detector, and they give you 2 theta angle versus intensity, and from that you measure the interplanar spacing, and interplanar spacing are basically the walls of the unit cell. By walls I mean the lattice parameter A, B, C and alpha, beta, gamma angles in between different among the planes. So it is the easiest and simplest technique and the cheapest technique. Cheapest, I don't mean the price of the machine, but the cost on sample characterization is minimum, right? Yeah, so it is very easy process, and you know about the phase composition of the material.
We can do only one sample at a time.
We have a magazine here,
Okay, sir.
which could do up to probably 35 or like that. But
It will affect the result. if we
no,
do-
it's not affecting the result. But there is some deficiency which we can't do at a time. I usually did 15, 16 samples in one go overnight running, but now people don't prefer that. So single sample gives you much safe results, right? And we don't have that facility, otherwise there is no problem in that. So technically there is no problem. Yeah. This is a ultraviolet visible light spectrometer, and it gives you the
So for nanoparticle.
nanoparticle and that size of analysis. And this is the latest generation of machine. This is
Color
this is the
identification need
solar
and
cell simulator,
number.
right?
The size,
So
right, size
we
movement.
made the
Absorption or transmission वाला spectrum हमारे
we make the solar cell, then flash light upon it and see how much light is converted into energy, so we can quantify the outcome of the light coming from that. So it's actually giving you an artificial type environment of how the solar cell works, and we quantify the efficiency and how much efficient our material is in converting energy, converting light into
The quantum
photons into
efficiency.
electrical energy.
Yes, internal, external, the photovoltaic, the specific solar cell. That's
Here, this is the
That's also
FTIR, no, PL, photoluminescence detector, and that is used for the dosimetry. Another thing that how FTIR, which measures the functional groups and the bands, which are characteristics.
Desktop type or desktop type?
No, yeah, you can say that, but it is not that much movable. It is not that much. It is the full machine,
Okay.
and this is the latest generation as well.
You can see the
Yeah.
graph.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, these bands you see here, they are characteristics of different materials. So if you see a band, for example, at 3000, it corresponds to a specific. This is domestic microwave, and Muhammad Ali is making some of the sample with this microwave energy as well. This equipment, it is the spin coater. So you put a drop on the slide, it is moving very fast and making very thin film upon the slides or various substrates. So you can make thin nano-sized films with this spin. These two furnaces you see, these are ordinary tube furnaces from Elite Furnaces UK, and this alumina tube is passed through it. The sample is connected through platinum wires, because platinum wires are not melting up to 1000 or like that centigrade. So the platinum electrodes are used. The sample is in the middle. A thermocouple is near the sample. So we measure the change in temperature and the associated change in capacitance. And then the capacitance measures the dielectric constant, which you call relative permittivity of the material. The simplest words which I can say about these, that you need three properties for wireless communication: that the signal is not lost in the device, the resonant frequency is not changing with temperature, and the relative permittivity is large enough. For example, you want sweet tea but want to use small amount of sugar, then make the sugar sweeter, then you will need smaller amount. Similarly, the dielectric constant is inversely, or square root of that is inversely proportional to the circuit size. So when you increase the dielectric constant, you decrease the circuit size, and that is why your wireless communication became a portable cell phone. It used to be carried in big lorries, and this was this was proposed by Richmond in 1939, that we can use cavity, instead of cavity resonator, we can use a solid state material, and increase the dielectric constant, you will decrease the circuit size, right? And that made the cell phone portable. So this was the, and this thing is measuring that. This machine is measuring the loss and the dielectric constant of the material, and you can increase the dielectric constant and decrease the size of the circuit, and we plot it here. It tells us about the QD temperature as well, at which temperature the polarization is maximum and the quality of the material is best for a particular application. There are also some source meters and nanovolt meters which measure the IV characteristics of various materials, current voltage characteristics. So they are mostly related to physics. Here we have a particle size analyzer,
Okay.
which I told you that sometimes we need 5 micron particle size of the final powder after milling. Sometimes we need 1 micrometer size. Sometimes we need different sizes of the. So here we bring the powder sample and put it in that small beaker, and it tells us about. It gives us a Poisson type distribution as well. That, for example, if the distribution is uniform from 1 micron to 3 micron, the maximum number is at 1.5 micron, so it is a Poisson type. If you want to know the exact number of how many particles are of which size, then it gives you a table of that as well. 10,000 particles are of this size, 5,000 of this size, so it gives you that details.
Particle distribution.
Yeah, this is that one was up from 1 megahertz to from 20 hertz
to 2 megahertz.
to up to 2 megahertz, and this is from 1 megahertz to 3 gigahertz. So when we are making higher frequency applications, measurements, then we use these type of things.
Sir,
Similarly,
just want to
no, it's up to
Micron.
micron. Yeah,
Okay.
it's not going that.
Or that you can use this
For
UV-based
nano
spectroscopy.
particles, I don't know. I never heard. Maybe I never heard.
Yeah.
There may be many facilities, but usually people use transmission electron
no,
microscopy.
that one is also, but this analyzer is also available.
Available with
Yeah,
nano.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I don't know that.
Yeah.
This is a network analyzer, and these small cavities are prepared here. So we buy the box, but then we make the circuits ourselves, and this gives you the true environment of a cavity resonator, and you measure the temperature coefficient of resonant frequency because you change the temperature. You put it on a hot plate, put a thermocouple in this hole, and you measure the temperature coefficient of resonant frequency. Temperature coefficient of resonant frequency means that if you are using a device in Peshawar, is it usable in a snowy area, for example Murray, if the resonant frequency is not changing, this means the material can be used as resonator in your cell phone or GPS system, radar system, antennae, or different things. And it gives you the loss as well, that how much signal is lost in the material when it receives it and then transmit it. How much of it is lost. So because if the signal is lost, then you will not hear anything. So you go for minimum loss. And temperature coefficient of resonant frequency, loss, and what's the third property we measure with it?
Bandwidth as well.
No, not bandwidth. There is another
Quality factor.
dielectric constant. These three. Quality factor is inverse of loss. देखो सिस्टम.
जी sir.
Yeah, here we have.
The precision LCR meter, that's it.
The
Oh, yeah, this is very important to tell
dimpling
you.
machine.
When you are making electron microscope samples, what you do, you thin the material up to 100 micron thickness. Then you bring it here and drill it. This is ultrasonic drill. It gives you a 3 millimeter diameter disc. That 3 millimeter diameter disc is 100 micron thick. Then you bring it here and you fix the material, stick the material here, and it rotates, and this wheel is upon it. So it dimples the middle of the material up to 25 micron. When the dimple, you can measure it with optical microscope, that how much the material has been dimpled. Then that dimple is placed in argon beams. Iron beam thinner is a machine which is in our CRL. So argon beams are coming and skipping that dimple area of the sample, and it takes it to 20 nanometers. So your edges of the sample are around 100 micron, and the middle is thin up to 20 micron, 20 nanometer. When it reaches 20 nanometer, then it is electron transparent, and you can use that sample in transmission electron microscope. If it is not electron transparent, then you can't see anything in that material. Here, this is called glass diameter, and you measure the thermal expansion coefficient of the material, which is very important, particularly for the material which undergo variation of temperature. Usually in porcelain, when you increase the temperature of porcelain, the quartz grain, they are transformed into cristobalite. Their thermal expansion coefficient is different from the surrounding glass, and that start cracking because it wants to expand, and the glass doesn't allow it, and cracking occurs. So with this machine you can measure the thermal expansion coefficient of different materials. For particularly I have more thermal expansion coefficient mismatch in bone china, because you have two phases mainly there, hydroxyapatite and anorthite, and their thermal expansion mismatches a lot. When you make a bone china material and put it in the microscope, you will see many cracks around it, and it just like when you have stagnant water and that dries up and cracks appear there. So it is the same type of phenomena almost. It gives you the glass transition temperature as well. It gives you the yield point of material as well, from where the plastic deformation begins. This is also a network analyzer type thing, material analyzer we call it. That is also a tube furnace, but we have not yet used it. And this is auto pellet press. So you, and that machine, you do pressing manually. And here you fix the number, that how many pascals or megapascal pressure do you need, and put the sample here, and it presses the material automatically. Right?
Sir, for thermal conductivity, can we use for polymer this one or some other instrument?
If they are not melting too much, because we usually go, it has a quartz crystals here.
Okay, the
So-
temperature, how much?
1200. It goes up to 1200.
Minimum temperature.
Minimum is from room temperature.
Okay.
Yeah. Here we put this thermocouple. It tells you the temperature of exact sample, and there you put sample. And when you heat it, it automatically then tells you about the thermal expansion coefficient of the material.
This is not for thermal conductivity. This is actually
Yeah, it's
for
thermal expansion.
the
We used to publish a journal. Ghanisab was its editor, and I was chief editor.
Yeah.
But then we stopped it because of the
Why, sir?
administrative non-cooperation. Right? So it was a very good journal, and it was particularly
So we have to start again.
for learning to teach students technical writing, because they used to learn how people technically write papers and things like
How
that.
many volumes you have for this one?
About 11.
11.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
11.
Yeah.
I mean, recently it has been closed.
About a few years ago. Yeah, and these are the ICTD cards, which are used as reference material globally, and we publish these cards from MRL, from Material Laboratory, right?